Sunday night under the pale moonlight, Vinny and Phil bring the shadows to life. Tales of the ghostly whispers in the night, Bigfoot and aliens ready for the strife. The darkness thickens, the air is cold, haunting stories waiting to unfold. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. EVPs echo through the haunted trees. Demons lurk as the chill hits with ease. Broadcasts rolling with guests to amaze. Cryptids and spirits were lost in the haze. Northmen in the foliage, watch your back. Dogmen prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. Moving in the foliage, watch your back. Through the prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. So tune in next week, fear in your soul. Darkness awaits, let the stories unfold.
Welcome to Supernatural Sundays, everyone. Got our special guest tonight. We've got Tony Rathman, and you got the Philbilly here. And Tony has been in the paranormal field for, looks like, at least 15 years, been working on paranormal EVP equipment. the Staticom, I believe, if I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, you're saying it correct.
Okay, and a lot of uh, the current equipment that's out there, like your spirit boxes and whatnot, they run on radio frequency pretty much. And this one has a white noise generator in it, so it's kind of different than what you would normally see on a spirit box.
Yeah, it's completely different. I mean, when anyone thinks of the term ITC, at least here in America, they automatically think of a spirit box because when the TV shows, paranormal shows first came out, that's what they were shown. So people don't understand that the term ITC or instrumental trans communication has a much broader range than just the spirit box. The spirit box, you're absolutely correct, uses radio. And it, of course, scans up and down the radio dial at different speeds. And the theory behind the spirit box is that they're going to take the radio fragments, and when I say fragments, because you're scanning anywhere from 500 to 100 milliseconds, so it just gives you little blips of sound. The theory was that spirits would take those little fragments of sound and rearrange them into their own sentence. We always thought that was kind of odd because every sound they needed would need to be available to them at that instance, and they'd have to rearrange them basically at the speed of light to get a response that answered a question. Well, through our research, we figured out that not only do they not need those radio fragments stop them from communicating. All they need is white noise. They don't need radio frequency, which is why we remove the radio.
So when you're doing like necrophonics or something like that, you should probably leave the white noise on that kind of feature.
Well, I mean, if white noise is an option, yeah, I would say use it. But I have a completely probably different opinion in apps than I do from other equipment. Apps are limited. They're limited because they're made for a phone. They're limited because of the processing ability within a phone. People use, for GPS, for audio recording, for video recording, phones are fantastic. But there's so many apps out there where you think that you're getting something that you're not. I've seen apps to be able to see infrared or even heat seeking. The internal mechanisms within a phone do not have the ability to show thermal. They don't. No. And every app you download, which is classified as paranormal, comes with a stipulation warning on it that says for entertainment only. So that's a dead giveaway right there that it's probably not doing what you think it's doing.
Yeah, I tell everybody if it doesn't say utility on it, it's probably just for entertainment. You're not really getting anything. And
correct.
You have to add a thermal camera to your phone if you want to try to get thermal evidence.
Correct.
And some of those don't see out very far. You're looking for Bigfoot or something like that. You're probably better off with a thermal monocular or a scope or something that can see out, or a high-end FLIR camera that can see way out.
Yeah, they make attachments that go over your lenses, which then do give thermal ability, but downloading just an app isn't going to give you true thermal. It gives you a colored screen is what it gives you.
Well, I've got a few things here in the news. We've got a few videos and stuff, and kind of see what you think since you've been in the paranormal for a while. And I'm going to go through a few of those, and we can check them out. And I'm curious to see what you think on them.
Sounds good.
Give me 39 seconds.
And I'll show you how to quantum jump and manifest anything in your life. I'll give you the codes. See, neuroscience shows that our brain is like a computer, a supercomputer. These codes act as a secret combination to unlock the lock stagnation neural pathways that's creating the trajectory you have now over and over and over. So here are the codes. And again, it will open up a new pathway and then a new trajectory, the life that you want to live. And that's how you'll have the quantum jump. See, you in the 3D world, you have these programs. The 5D world, you have to see over and over in the mind, and you can't have doubt or fear. You have to let go. And once you see it, then you can make a jump. So these are the codes to help you make the jump. Okay, write this down, 917604. Now, if you don't see yourself jumping today or the next day, you may have some doubt and fear that you need to remove. So watch the other videos and you could remove those too. But you need to jump into the new version of you. Make the quantum jump. And this is how you do it. Use the codes.
I have no idea what to do with that code.
You know, okay, first of all, you want my opinion? Absolute BS. Second of all, quantum jump to where? Time and space jump forward, backwards to higher consciousness? What is the jump for? I'll tell you what that code is. That code is a tracking code to get to see how many more videos you can watch and how they're going to siphon money from you in the next 3 stages after that. That was a lot of mumbo jumbo scientific talk to nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. I was like, well, what do you do with the code here? You get a free sandwich out of that or what? This one here is going to be kind of funny. I don't know if you know or not, the fastest ship that ever went across the North Atlantic crossing was the U.S., the America. And it's been set in mothball for a long time with trying to get different owners to do something with it. And I think it's a conservancy bought it down in Florida. They're going to take it down there and they're going to clean it, strip all any contaminants out of it, and they're going to take it out and scuttle it. And it's going to be a artificial reef. And
cool.
Dive. And they've had pretty good luck with sinking those ships in the artificial reef. It gives the fish somewhere to go and restore some habitat. And this is a video of a night of it getting towed. So it looks like it's sailing along, but it's actually getting towed. You can't see the rope, but I just thought this was kind of fun. They just stuck the girl ghost up there, the song "Eyes Without a Face."
Right.
So, and somebody come by overnight and saw that. They were like, "Okay, we got the ghost ship coming up." But I would like to investigate that thing before they sink it. And I have talked to a few people that's dove on some wrecks and it's kind of ran into some weird phenomenon. I think over in Truck Lagoon, there's tanks and trucks and all kind of stuff down there. And people's actually reported hearing like engines, like motors running down there and whatnot.
That's very cool. Let me
tell
you what I saw though when I watched that. There is one giant spotlight hitting that boat, yet the boat is completely lit from stern to bow evenly.
Yeah,
that looks like CGI to me. That doesn't look real.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here. Okay, this one's from Ireland. So this is the Irish month, basically the St. Paddy's Day. My sister's born on St. Paddy's Day. She's not Irish, and the nurses tried to get my mom to name her Patty. She wouldn't do it. Anyway, this was an Irish kind of a cryptid from Ireland that I'd never heard of. It's called the Dullahan.
In the misty landscapes of Ireland, the legend of the Dullahan looms large. This spectral figure, a headless horseman, rides a black steed at night. carrying his own head tucked under one arm. Originating in ancient Celtic mythology, the Dullahan is said to be a harbinger of death. When he stops riding, someone is destined to die. The Dullahan's head, with eyes that can see for miles, is said to glow like a lantern, illuminating his path as he gallops through the darkness. Variations of this legend exist across Ireland, with some tales describing him as a grim reaper of sorts. There are reports of the Dullahan using a whip made from a spine, cracking it to signal his presence. The story may have drawn inspiration from real events, such as the widespread fear of disease and famine that plagued Ireland, leading to tales of death and the undead. Encounters with the Dullahan often leave witnesses feeling an overwhelming chill and a sense of impending doom. His presence serves as a chilling reminder that death is always near. This haunting tale captivates those who dare to listen. Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit like and subscribe for more videos.
Very interesting. Let me point out some key words that he used. One, mythology. Second, the thing about mythology, though, is that there's usually some truth in it. And the only truth I think is in that is when he talked about the fear of death and disease that was going through Ireland. And the other thing that stories like that evolved from and are told for is to keep kids out of mischief, so they're not sneaking out of the house at night, running off into the woods. He said that story had been around for centuries, or I think he said centuries. I'm sure that's correct. And I'm sure that the information behind the story was just for those reasons, either fear of disease that was going through the country, or, fear is used even today from governments and ruling orders to keep people in line. Now, we don't use stories of headless creatures or people with glowing eyes that can see miles, but back then, when science wasn't what it was today, yeah, I'm sure that placed fear both in adults and children and probably caused the effect they wanted to have.
There was a lot going on there. You had a Grim Reaper that looks like a goat man, and he's snapping a spine whip, running around. And then you got the whole Ichabod Crane headless horseman thing going on in there too. So
Exactly.
Okay, Ireland, we'll put you on the map for that one. This next one comes out of Wisconsin, the cheese up there where you have all the cheese heads up in Wisconsin. I got a few friends up there, so hello to all the cheese heads. There. Awesome. All my favorite beers come from there.
Beer and
in the rural hills of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, a shadowy figure lurks, known as the Beast of Bray Road. This urban legend dates back to the late 1980s when sightings began to emerge. Witnesses described a large wolf-like creature, standing upright, with fur as dark as the night sky. Locals shared tales of encounters while driving along Bray Road, claiming the beast would dart into view, leaving them shaken and terrified. Some even reported the creature attacking livestock, fueling fears and speculation. The origins of this legend may be rooted in the area's rich history of folklore, blending Native American tales of the Wendigo with contemporary fears. Variations of the beast surfaced over the years, with some claiming it to be a werewolf or a ghostly protector of the forest. Despite investigations by cryptozoologists and media coverage, the creature remains elusive, with no conclusive evidence of its existence. Eyewitness accounts continue to spark intrigue and fear in the community. What do you believe? Is the Beast of Bray Road a myth or a true terror lurking in the shadows? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit like and subscribe for more videos.
Very interesting. Elkhorn, Wisconsin is about maybe 35 miles southwest of Milwaukee. So I would think if this creature was running around, somebody would have been able to identify it. So, things like that, I think that there might, again, be some stories that were passed down over the years. But like I said, Elkhorn's not that far from Milwaukee, and it just seems a strange place to have that be the only place noted that this thing was seen.
I've been to the Brat Stop a couple times up there in Kenosha. I don't recall ever seeing a dog man running by or anything in the 90s. So
Now, I'm not saying that there aren't things out there that maybe we don't know about or can't explain, but to centralize something like that in one, and I don't even want to say city, town.
yeah,
Elkhorn's more of a town, not a city. Just when it gets that specific seems odd to me.
yeah.
Nobody can identify what city or what city Bigfoot resides around. I mean, because there's sightings all over the world, depending on whether it's Sasquatch or Yeti or whatever term they use. But to pinpoint a specific town seems very odd to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of different sightings and whatnot. The whole dogman thing. No humans, dogs can't interbreed or anything like that. So it would have to be some kind of DNA experiment. I think that got loose. The government
If it was human
engineered.
constructed, yeah. If it multidimensional, extraterrestrial, that brings up all sorts of other lines of possibilities. I mean, you got places like Skinwalker Ranch that they've experienced all sorts of strange phenomena that can't be explained. So who knows?
Over here at Land Between the Lakes, they got an area called the Devil's Backbone over there, and that's where Martin over there had seen some things. He's wrote a couple books of the Martin Groves, and he's wrote a few books. And I talked to him personally a couple times, and he was telling me that the thing was running alongside, and he said that all of a sudden they looked over and its legs were like transparent, and then it just kind of disappeared. They've had different sightings of people seeing these things, like they step into a circle and disappear. So I was like, well, I don't know about all that, but if it's interdimensional, I got to use different equipment. I'm have to get up my XLS and see if it picks up anything. But once it's out past 30 foot, it doesn't pick up much anyway. So
yeah, I mean, there's definitely possibilities that stuff that is far beyond our reach of technology and different life forms that have abilities that far beyond what we have. So is it possible? Yeah. Do I think that creature was running around Elkhorn, Wisconsin? I don't know. I can't prove it was. I can't prove it wasn't. But, like I said, I look reasonably and rationally when I hear what's being said and then think, okay, well, why would it be hanging out there? Who knows? Who knows?
This next one takes us over to Japan, across the ocean.
Have you heard of the Hoyabashu Forest? It is one of the most haunted forests in the entire world. This forest has a lot of weird naturally occurring phenomena, such as the trees. A lot of them are in weird zigzag patterns and twisted in really weird ways. There's also the clearing, which is a space where literally nothing grows, and scientists have tested the soil and they cannot figure out why. A lot of people who visit Hoyabashu report feeling dizzy, experiencing nausea, and their equipment not working properly, as well as seeing weird, dark, shadowy figures in the trees and hearing people circling around them. There's also a lot of reports of seeing UFOs and missing chunks of time, so a lot of people think that there's like a portal to another dimension in this forest. We'll be diving further into the lore of Hoyabashu in our next episode of Haunted Hangout, dropping February 25th.
Sounds like a Japanese Skinwalker Ranch kind of area.
Hoyabashu has evidence proving that there are things going on there. So this one, I would say, is probably 99% accurate compared to the other ones that you played. There has been television shows gone there and research. There have been, and I think even Josh Gates was there, and his cameraman in that circle literally got thrown, I don't know, 10 yards from where he was sitting down, and he stopped doing the show for like 2 or 3 years after that happened. There is a huge suicide rate in that forest. People go out, take their own lives. Captures have been made, apparitions have been filmed. And we were there 2 years ago planning to investigate it. Our time got sidetracked on us, but we're planning on heading back to Japan to go investigate that location.
That would be awesome. I, I'll be sure to tune in for that.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of Japanese friends. I've just never been over there. I've worked for a couple of different Japanese companies, so over the years. Funny thing, their earthquakes they blame on a giant catfish, and
Correct.
the name for the catfish is a namazu. And I took a couple of Japanese gentlemen, friend of mine, out. We went out fishing, catfishing. And as soon as we caught one, I threw that thing in the boat. I looked around, I couldn't find him, and he was standing on top of the sea. And he was screaming. He was screaming, "Namazu, Namazu!" And I'm like, "It's a catfish," not knowing the whole story about the catfish is their mythical creature or whatever that causes all the earthquakes when he gets upset. So I was like, "Oh
Yeah,
man!"
and again, those stories came from lack of scientific explanation of what was happening, and so it got attached to gods or creatures, and yeah, their creature having mythical connotations to them one of them was the catfish. So here's a giant catfish that's scraping across the bottom, causing the earth to shake. That's what their theory was.
Yeah, we threw about a 10-pound catfish in the boat. He was kind of excited.
Freaking out.
Yeah, I get the lights are so bright over there. I guess they don't get to see the stars and the outer space much over there. And we went ahead and stayed out all night. We were camping and everything. We're sitting out there by the fire. Every time a plane would go by or a satellite, anything, they call them their UFO. They call it a UFO, and he would just be pointing. He goes UFO, UFO. I'm like, an airplane, Then they're like arguing with each other, like, no, it's a UFO. And then pretty soon a satellite would come over, and they're like UFO, UFO. I'm like, satellite. I don't think they believe me because they're not used to seeing the Milky Way and that kind of thing. With the light pollution is so bright. So
yeah, if you're in a major city like Tokyo, yeah, there's lights everywhere. You get outside the city, and there's plenty of provinces in the country that don't have that light problem, and you can see the sky like crazy. But yeah, if you're in a city like Tokyo, yeah, no, it's the lights affect what you can see in the stars.
this next one comes off a trail cam down in Appalachia, and we do get a lot of wild stories out of Appalachia down here. We're Kentucky. We border Appalachia on the east side, and this one come off a trail cam. And I'm not sure what I think about this one. I'm looking at it. It looks like they're trying to describe it as a demon chasing a deer, and I'm thinking it could be one of those big, one of those. They got a bat, a really large bat that looks like a horse, got a horse face on it, and I think those get mistaken for like Jersey Devils. But I don't know that we have those type of bats up here in the United States. But I'm gonna play this one, see what you think.
If the Appalachian Mountains wasn't scary enough, what is this? This could be the scariest or creepy thing I've ever seen on a trail camera. Now, everyone knows the Appalachian Mountains are haunted. There's all kinds of paranormal stories, Bigfoot stories, Dogman stories, but this is something, I don't know. I take that back, I do know. It's demonic. It's a demon. It's a pure demon. It looks like it's straight out of hell. If you've never been in the Appalachian Mountains, especially at night, they come alive. It's a whole nother world of itself. If you think the ocean and the sea is vast and full of stuff we don't know about, I'm telling you, these mountains are something else too. What is this thing right here? Now, obviously, we can see this is a deer right here, and this is actually a feeder, like a deer feeder. It usually throws out corn, and deers come and feed. This thing is coming to feed too, but not on corn. If you've never seen anything demonic, you have now. Look at this beast. Seriously, this thing is, look at the eyes and just the mouth. You can see what looks like wings, and it's like it's on almost all fours, and it has a tail. Now, I can't prove this is real. Maybe it's photoshopped. I don't know. It looks real. And I know just firsthand how scary these mountains can be. Let me know in the comments. Is this real? And if it is, what is it? Thanks for watching. Have a great day. God bless.
I would have been more impressed if the trail cam caught video rather than a photo.
Still.
photo is probably one of the easiest things to alter. And with today's technology, Photoshop now incorporating AI, I would put my money that was doctored for sure.
Could be somebody's toy animal. They put a picture of and put out there.
You don't even need it. You know, I mean, it could have not even been in the picture when the deer was captured and added after. So the bottom line is, if I had to bet on it, I would bet that's absolutely fake.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, then I would think more pictures would have been captured, because a trail cam will instantly shoot as long as there's movement. And the fact that he only had one tells me that was altered.
There should have been more images. I would
Correct.
Moving.
Right.
Yeah. Down here where this part of the country, I get a lot of folks telling me, I'm worried about you going out. Everything's a demon, right? Everything, and I'm like, well, I thought that I'd never leave the house.
I mean, are there
like,
dangers?
be careful? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be careful, but I don't think everything can be put in a box.
Correct. Are there dangers? Natural
Absolutely.
dangers going out in the mountains at night? Absolutely. Could there be things out there that we're not aware of and don't know what they are? Yeah, there could, but not everything is that. And to have that thought process, no one would leave their house if that was truly the case. So
yeah, I've ran into people out, in the middle of the night, cemeteries and stuff. They're way more scary to me than anything paranormal. I think the scariest thing we've ever ran into was a copperhead snake climbing up a tree. That was probably more terrifying to me than having something come up and touch me or smell something, or the snake. It's poisonous. That can really mess me up. So we give it a wide berth. It was eating cicada bugs on the side of a tree in a graveyard. So. And I've run into some sketchy people out there just showing up out in the middle of the night cemeteries. There's a lot of I call them paranormal tourists. If it's a popular area, you might have 4 or 5 different groups come out, and you'll have teenagers out scaring each other, having fun. But then you'll have just like a couple of people out by themselves. You run into some really legit people investigating and just trying to learn, and then you've got other people that are out there doing things they shouldn't be, trying to antagonize things and whatnot. So
yeah, I mean, definitely one of the highest possibilities of running into one of the scariest things is other people, no doubt about it.
Let's see this next one. These guys are always finding these structures out in the woods, and they think Bigfoot's making all of them. And I'm not 100% sure that. I mean, some of these things you'd have to have some heavy equipment to do, and others look to me like somebody might have just people piled them up. And, this is an example of one of those. See what you think.
More structure that I say 100% not natural. Tree pushed over and broke. 2 poles right here. All this, you can tell that this was growing and they bent it up and then lean these poles in there. Like, that is 100% not natural. Sasquatch, in my opinion. The 2 poles, tree bent right over there. That's Sasquatch.
I've seen lots of shows where they discuss the fact that Sasquatch might be doing stuff like that. My first question, though, is what's it for? It doesn't keep rain off of them. It's not going to keep wind away from them. It's 3 poles. Is it some sort of religious thing or I don't know. But that's always my first question. Okay, what is it? Yeah, it's 3 sticks together that are joined in a non-natural formation. I get it. But what's the purpose? Is he sleeping under there? If so, how come no other covering? How come nothing to block wind or rain? So that's my first question. Is it possible? Yeah. I mean, there's tons of credible Sasquatch investigators that have found similar structures. So is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. Do I know the answer definitively? Yes or no? No, I don't. So that's as much as I can say on it.
I wasn't sure how the vine part of it got put through there, but because the rest of it still had a lot of moss growing on it. But the one in the middle looked to me like a deer scrape, or like an animal had scraped. Like deer do that, and they rub on stuff, and bears do it.
Correct. Took the moss off. Very possible. But I mean, even a branch falling off of a tree can entangle in other branches, cause those to fall and land in weird, unnatural situations. That's a possibility. But again, knowing that people look for that stuff, they look for arches, they look for nests with, where they may be sleeping. It's possible. I can't say it is or isn't real. All I can say is based off of what you just showed and what I think. But like I said, my first question is, okay, if you put 3 poles together and intertwine them so they stay, did he sleep underneath it, and why? Because it's no different than sleeping 5 feet away from it, because there's no rain coverage, no wind coverage. What was it for?
They think it might be like a sign, like a trail, like marking their territory or something like that. But I wouldn't think they'd have to, or a show of their strength, like if they put a tree in the ground upside down or something like that. But I've seen tornadoes do some pretty wild stuff with trees, tree roots.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those kind of reports as well. Is it possible? Yeah, it is. I'm not going to say it's not. I just don't have those answers.
And then the whole tree knock thing. Over where my folks live, it's in central Illinois. And it's flat, really flat. There's like hardly any trees except for around homes, or you get around water source, like a creek, river, a lake. There's trees, but the rest of it's just flat, 40 miles, just black dirt. And then you might see corn. Next year, you might have soybeans, and it's just the wind. You notice it there when it's not blowing, and they put a lot of wind farms up over there. But I was over there mushroom hunting with him a couple years ago, and it was real windy like it usually is. And where we were at was a lot of dead trees, and those dead trees started, like, the wind was so bad that banging into each other. It sounded just like those tree knocks you see on those TV shows, and some of them would knock 2 or 3 times. I was like, tree knock. I looked, and then when the wind kind of quit gusting, they would stop. Then the wind would pick up, and it would be a tree knock. I'm like, how many of those tree knocks are just dead trees blowing together? I kind of debunked that one myself. I didn't really get too nervous once I seen it was the wind doing it. But if there was no wind and I heard a tree knock, I might be more apt to think it was something else.
Right.
This one comes out of Mississippi, and they haven't had snow down there in a long time. I don't know if these people are kind of freaked out. I don't know if it's just somebody messing with them, but this showed up when the snow came. Pretty big handprint, unless it was Shaq or somebody down there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it clearly appears to be a handprint. The first thing that I noticed is all the other prints around it. And if you have 2 prints that overlap, like a rabbit's back legs and then some other drag mark or tail mark, could you end up producing something that looks like a giant hand? Well, you could. Again, I'm not saying either way, whether it's real or not real. It clearly looks like a gigantic hand. How it exactly was made, like I said, the 2 middle fingers looks like a big rabbit's back legs together, and then I can't tell exactly what the other fingers are, and then the thumb. But if you look at the amount of tracks and marks in the snow in that area, they're everywhere.
It almost looks too perfect. A lot of the handprints that I've seen, like they've taken of what they believe were Bigfoot in Kentucky, they're more spread out. Like they're not like a straight hand; they're all spread out like an ape or something would be. And,
Yeah. if you look at the thumb on that too, really long, strange bend to it. And if they're covered in fur, and I'm no Bigfoot expert, but would you not see some hair impression around the hand, which I do not see in that print?
Yeah, I didn't either. This guy, he's been coming out saying he's I don't know if he's just trying to get views, or he keeps saying he has an actual Bigfoot. Then the government came and took it from him, and now he's claiming he's got another one. This one I just thought was like one of those apps on your phone for entertainment only. But I'm going to pull him up here to see what you think of this character.
Hello, my name is Rick Dyer, one half of the greatest Bigfoot tracking team that has ever existed. So what we have is really indescribable, because y'all have never seen this ever. Number one, I will confirm that there is a deceased Bigfoot. Number two, there is a Bigfoot that is communicating with us, and we are training to hunt other Bigfoots. And I know that sounds absolutely wild. And the reason it sounds wild is because the Bigfoot hunters, they really don't hunt for Bigfoot. They hunt for Bigfoot behind their computers. They talk about people. They talk about their past experiences as other people's past experiences 20 years ago. We are not like that. And that's what makes us the greatest Bigfoot tracking team of all time, Team Tracker Bigfoot. I will confirm that we did not unalive this Bigfoot. It was already deceased. And the one that we are communicating with, he is communicating with other Bigfoot for us. We are no longer out to unalive one because we already have one. There's no sense of it now. Now it's time to communicate and protect these species of beasts. We have tons of videos. We have tons of pictures. And we also have the body. But we're going to do it the right way this time. There is no interference from the government. The government and law enforcement is completely aware of what's going on. And we're working with their timeline to release this magnificent find. And I'm sure there will be a lot of naysayers. All you have to do is read the comments. But this time, it's coming out. And everyone will realize that myself and Jeremy, we are the master Bigfoot trackers and communicators. More to come. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Again, interesting post. And I'm not going to comment one way or another whether it at some point it's possible to find a body. It hasn't happened up until now. People have claimed it. But there have been fur samples captured that DNA tests couldn't identify what it was or which animal that it was from. But the point is that if you're working with, he said law enforcement, I can't remember if he said FBI. He had said somebody else besides law enforcement. I don't remember who it was. And he was working on their time. What?
Might have been a sheriff or
yeah, something. But if he's working with their timeline to release it, because we didn't see anything, he didn't show anybody.
No, he never does.
Exactly. Why and how did you release 90% of the information on your personal TikTok if you're working with law enforcement to release information? There are some huge discrepancies on that, and I'm sorry, but if law enforcement says, yeah, boast about it on your TikTok, I think that the doors would have been wide open. He said they were waiting for the permission to do that. He already did it. So there's some mismatch of information right there.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. This next one's a paranormal little clip I saw. It's supposedly two ghosts having a conversation with each other.
Again, okay, after 15 years of paranormal investigation, I can't hear the sound to it. So
Yeah, I think the audio was messed up on that one because when I put it on there, it actually had sounds. I'm not sure.
you know, and the sound is possible. EVP is a real phenomenon. The clarity of them can vary by recording. So I'm not going to dismiss that, but I'm definitely going to dismiss their orbs.
Yeah.
If anybody knows anything about, there is a rug on the floor. I saw a shadow of somebody moving around. That air movement enough is to take dust particles on the floor, kick them up off shelves, kick them up. What they're showing is dust. Dust highlighted in an infrared light and reflecting back to the camera. And judging by how big when they showed it in the arrow, when it looked like it was way back in the other room, I guarantee you that is half an inch from the lens and appearing to be larger, but it's dust.
That's why I don't like those Waze cameras, those surveillance different cameras, and they all run on Wi-Fi. So the first thing when I go in a house and they have those cameras, I can walk in about 5 minutes with a K2 walking around with my industrial meter. I can find all your routers, your extenders, your Alexa devices, all that stuff. So first of all, you're contaminating everything with Wi-Fi, and then those cameras have a bug eye lens, and every little microscopic particle of dust to me looks like everything looks like orbs, and there's really nothing there. And then
all cameras do that, exactly.
Yeah, and then I use just regular camcorders on a tripod, and they're set back in a corner, usually away from try to keep away from air ducts or anything like that. But I had one lady, her house was very clean house, and she's getting all this looks like orbs, and I'm like, it's dust. She's like, my house is clean. I'm like, I'll give you that. Your house is very clean. I said, but you want to see how clean your house really is? And she's like, yeah, I do. I said, are you sure? Like, yeah. So I get the UV light out. And I start shining around our walls, and dust shows up like a purple microscopic little. And her one room was just covered. And I said,
Yeah.
look, I'll rub my hand on it, and then you could see it just going everywhere in the air. She was like, oh my God. I'm like, and then she was paranoid that she was going to like wash all her walls and everything. I was like, you can go in anybody's house with a UV light, you can find, dust. Usually you can find where the heat vents are and everything else.
Absolutely. And people's like, well, there wasn't enough air movement to make something move that way. It's dust. It can float. It takes such little air movement to make it sporadic, and people just have a hard time understanding that, and I'm not sure why.
Just go dump your ashes out of your barbecue grill and just look in the air with a flashlight. I mean, you can see it.
Exactly.
I think static. I think dust can fly around on static too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
a static charge, you mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This next one is one we went out to it's a pauper cemetery here in Bowling Green. It's called Mount Moriah. And we weren't there very long. It's kind of a daytime thing. They won't let you in there overnight. It was kind of spit and rain. We got a little bit of action. These are just a couple little things, little clips that I kept. The rest of it, we didn't really get much. A lot of times I'll look at footage for hours and hours, and I might get one little thing. And a lot of times you don't get anything. That's what people don't understand. They think they're going to get an EVP every time they go out. I think I was a year and a half in before I got my first, what I even would consider an EVP that I could understand. Most time you don't get anything. So
Right.
Elvin Williams, 1879 to 1938, April 16th. That's my dad's birthday. Awesome. So, anyway, the cat ball went off. The one next to it did not go off. We thought a pauper cemetery would be tiny, but it's actually pretty darn big. And I'm thinking, was that a cedar tree there? Cindy, what do you think? Looks like a cedar. Pretty big cedar. But yeah, this cat ball went off over here. Mr. Elvin, are you still hanging around here at your gravesite? You got anything you want to say to us? Did that cat ball just go off?
No. As soon as you said that. Want me to bring the spirit box over here?
Yeah, if you want to bring it over here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Was not expecting that. I really never expect anything, but when something happens, it's pretty cool. But yeah, the cat ball's still going off. Mr. Elvin. Maybe nobody comes out here much, so they're excited to interact. We're not gonna even try for EVPs because it's so windy and stuff, but I did just hear a bird. Cindy's bringing the spirit box over here. I just set it on the ground. Cat ball just went off again. This other cat ball's not going off, or the other one over there.
It's pretty covered over here.
Mr. Elvin, if that's you messing with.
Interesting. That I guess the first question is what's the relation between spirit interaction and a cat ball lighting up? Are we thinking they're moving it? Are we thinking, what's the cat balls showed up about 4 or 5 years ago, and I see them used a lot.
I use them, but I kind of have mixed feelings on them. I'm like, okay, I've had something like I have to actually hit it or shake it, but then when it goes off without touching it, then we think it could be something paranormal. But it's like I'll turn them on here at home and set them around, and they don't go off at all. Like I'll set them here for hours, and they don't. Then I'll go up and touch it, make sure it's still working. And it goes off, and I'm like, okay, And then that day the wind was blowing a little bit, so I had them on the ground on the backside of the stone where the wind couldn't get them. And then I had like 3 of them there, and that was the only one that went off. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know much about them. I've never used them. But me being research based, I would rip one apart, see what the components are, see what's activating the flashing. Can that activation be done through some type of RF wave, some type of cellular wave to make it flash? Could it be a phone? Could it be radio wave? Could it be some sort of electromagnetic wave? How else can I get it to activate that may, I don't know. But I've never researched it. I've never used one, so I can't answer it. But that would be my first question is what are the variables that do make it go off, and what variables were happening when we recorded it going off, supposedly from something being supernatural or haunted?
It was about 40 degrees and a little bit of misty rain out there. But I've used them in the summer, the winter, whatever. And I was thinking, well, maybe condensation, but they're sealed. I thought, well, maybe they can. It's like the mag lights. They've pretty much proven the mag lights. The mirror contracts and it makes a contact and it arcs. And so I won't even use a mag light, but I've got a cat ball tore apart. It's just a little circuit board with a battery, and it's basically a little motion sensor with an LED. So I've tried with cell phones and different things, trying to, if I can figure out how to make one go off, then I'll know to, like right now, if I'm in a small environment, I try to keep my cell phone away or put it in airplane mode because it'll set off all your K2s and that kind of stuff. And I was at a pretty small place one time, and everybody was getting all kind of activity, and I was like, "Is everybody's phones in airplane mode?" They're all looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, "Turn your phones to airplane mode." They're like, really? I'm like, just do it. So
Yeah.
they put them all in airplane mode, and all their devices just went
Quit.
silent. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still use the cat balls. I don't know if it's anything paranormal or not. I've got a plasma ball I use too, and most of the time it just, I don't know if you can see it. I got one here. You just got to kind of you put your finger to it, and then the plasma comes over to where it's touching. And I've had those like start swirling around, and it'll make like one like little flame in the middle. I've had that happen a couple times. I couldn't explain it at a cemetery and also at a Land Between the Lakes. That area is supposed to be active. We were at an abandoned school site, and there's people couldn't stay there all night. They camp out and they get freaked out and leave in the middle of the night. Think something's looking at them. We didn't have any issues. I stayed out there all night. I was out there like 3 in the morning, looking for the school. And I did have my plasma ball though. It just kind of went like it looked like a flame, and I can't explain it. Just and I had one cat. I was gonna say I had a cat ball go off too, but I think it just fell over in the leaves.
Yeah. I would put more emphasis on plasma is energy, frequency, and vibration. Tesla said you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And when we get to Staticom, we use white noise. What's white noise? Energy, frequency, and vibration. What's spirit or consciousness? Energy, frequency, and vibration. It is the standalone three elements of our universe and probably every universe. So to me, a plasma ball, if it's doing something odd, would probably be more specific or scientific to, hey, how is this happening, than to maybe a cat ball lighting up. But so that's interesting.
Right. I've got some theories on frequency myself and vibration. When I was younger, I did a lot of vibration analysis, and I did balancing and on machinery and different things. We did also do what we call static bump test, where sometimes you get a machine and it's just shaking itself to pieces, and we'll go and check whatever it's bolted to, like the framework of the equipment. And what you do is you have a transducer, a piezoelometer transducer, and you'll put it on like say it's an I-beam or whatever the framework is, and you'll have a magnetic mount or a hand probe, and you put it on there, and then you do what they call a bump test. So basically, you hit it with a rubber mallet or something to strike the impact of vibration into it, and then you have what they call an FFT, which is full frequency. It's like a little frequency map. It'll show the frequency of the vibration, the peaks. And
Correct.
so, say this thing, the frequency of the structure is like 900. That's the frequency. Like ringing a bell. Everything has a frequency. Everything in nature has a frequency, unless you crack that bell. So you either got to dampen it or change the mass. So if you add a weight to it, you can balance stuff, change the mass. Or if you have a, a dampener, which would be like a rubber isolator pad or something to dampen it. So it's just like on a car. If you crawl under a car, sometimes they'll have a weight hanging off the exhaust. Sometimes the exhaust has a resonant frequency in it. They'll add a counterweight to it, and that changes the mass. And your wheel on your car, what do you do when you get new wheels and tires? They balance them. They put little weights.
Right.
They change the mass. So, and if you speed up or slow down, it'll change the frequency. So, basically, we would do a bump test if it was like 900. Then this thing's running 1800 RPM or running 3600 or a frequency of that 900. The resonant frequency of the structure would be a harmonic. So, a multiple of that structure frequency could cause it to, especially if it's 2 times, like a 1 times frequency of whatever your RPM is, an imbalance. If it's 2 times your frequency, that's looseness. So if I know it's running 1800 and I get a frequency of 3600, I know it's something's loose. So then I'll go around and start checking vertically, and I'll find a bolt that's loose, and I'll tighten that down, and it goes down to 0. So everything, and there's all kinds of different frequencies for bearings and fans and belts, and nature's the same way. So my theory is, if I go bang on an old house on the wall, as long as that structure never changed, that noise and frequency it makes is going to be the same now as it was 100 years ago. So if you're a spirit, and like everybody's voice or the structure has a certain noise, you come in an old house, banging around, walking around, if there's a spirit there, that sound, I believe, would transmit through interdimensions. That's one of my theories, is frequencies, like you're saying, everything is based on vibration, and I'm thinking those vibrations are interdimensional. Is one of my theories.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say yes or no that's true, but I mean, you're talking about frequency resonance. I mean, there were bridges that were completely destroyed by wind. And when people think of that, they're like, okay, was this 100-mile-an-hour wind? No, it was a 40-mile-an-hour wind. But that wind made the bridge vibrate. That vibrate as the
It looked
wind
like a sine
continued,
wave.
vibrational resonance, and it absolutely took the bridge down and every vehicle on it by a 40-mile-an-hour wind. So it doesn't take, 140-mile-an-hour wind if the energy, frequency, and vibration can destroy stuff. No doubt about it.
Yeah, so that's kind of my theory, and I've been looking at getting some vibration equipment. I know how to record vibration. I know what different multiples and different things mean, but I've been trying to figure out how to use vibration and frequency response in paranormal research. It's just like there was one gentleman. He's got I'm trying to think what the rig is called, but he's got a show, and I think he calls himself Hope, like Hope Spiritual or something like that. He tries to talk to celebrities. He's a medium, and some of those voices come across sound just like the celebrity, which you recognize that voice because the frequency of it would be the same if they're in another spiritual realm or whatever. Like the guy sounded like Richard Simmons, and he had a guy sound like Burt Reynolds, and it sounded just like him. And it doesn't. He doesn't look like he's trying to hoax anything or make anything up or fake it. I'm not 100% sure what all kind of equipment he's using, but his does like a capture. So basically, you ask the question, you hit a button, it opens up for the recording like a little quick EVP, and then it closes it back up. Kind of like you open record and close record, and then you'll play it back.
Interesting, because how many times have you done a straight EVP session where you don't know whether the answer is going to come in immediately or 5 minutes later? So I'm wondering how the spirits can hit that open window perfectly. That seems odd to me.
Very odd. But when he does his lives, it seems like you'll see him leave it open for a little bit, then he pulls it back in, and then he'll play it back, and it sounds like somebody talking. It sounds a lot like the person that was talking. So I've got a few of your little clips here, and some of them are just really quick, and I'll put them up. We can talk to them a little bit, and then we can go into.
All right, if you're going to play one first, start with the one that says DRV, Bocce, I think it says, because there's an order to them. We started. Let me explain what this is first before you play a clip. But when we started investigating 15 years ago, I didn't believe any of this. I was a complete skeptic. My father was a physics professor, taught for 43 years or 47 years. So ghosts, spirits, entities really never was part of discussion. And it wasn't until I met my wife, and 15 years ago on Valentine's Day, she said, I want to do something different. I said, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to go ghost hunting. And I was like, gotta be kidding me. Anyway, I ended up taking her, and I was absolutely blown away by the fact that we were using a digital recorder, asking questions, 3 a.m. in the basement of this hotel. Nobody else was even up, let alone around, yet we had responses. So we specialized in EVP for many, many, many years. Then we moved to ITC, or spirit boxes. Then we would build our own. We built them for 12 years. I have 14 boxes that some of them really nice advancements to them. Never sold one. I wasn't interested in selling them. It was purely for research. And then we moved into what was called direct radio voice. And direct radio voice was a method used by Marcello Bacci for about 35 or 40 years. It was discovered that voices could come through by a gentleman named Friedrich Jurgensen. And then Friedrich Jurgensen passed that information on to Konstantin Radava. And then Marcello Bacci learned from Radava how to do it. And Bacci was scientifically examined in a lab, and they could not debunk what he was doing or how it was happening. So some former teammates of ours went back, researched direct radio voice, got it functional. And then today, my wife and I, after we moved it from direct radio voice, which used a radio on a vacant station, did not move up and down the dial. You know, one of the biggest complaints about this from scientists and skeptics was you're claiming you're getting voices from the other side, but your method is using a radio. I mean, perfectly good explanation to debunk it. You're using a device that's made to produce speech from RF waves. How do you know what's reception and what's deception? Is it radio? How do you determine if it's spirit? Now, after doing it for 12 years, we could tell the difference. But when we created Staticom, we wanted to take all that low-hanging fruit away. We took out the radio. The other thing about doing EVP is that it's called a record and review process, meaning you're at your location, you're asking question after question after question, but it's not until you get home that you take the recording, upload it to your computer, try to clarify it, maybe remove noise from it, amplify it. But by the time you get that all done and hear what was said, the moment's passed. You're not there anymore. So Staticom does a bunch of things. One, it uses a white noise generator instead of a radio. The radio is gone. We cannot pick up any signal, not radio, walkie-talkie, baby monitor, C-beat, nothing. Satellite, it does not have the ability to pick up any wave out there. White noise has no vocal data, no sentences, no words, no even vowel sounds. It doesn't exist. It's frequency from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. There are no words in there anywhere. It uses no AI, no word banks, no vocal library of any kind. It is pure white noise, filtered, and then we ask questions and the answers show up. Now, again, there's no mics. I'm not broadcasting my voice. I'm speaking like I'm speaking now without a mic. So there's so many questions as to how this is occurring. But if you play the one labeled DRV, this was still the radio. We hadn't moved away from it yet, but go ahead and play that one. You'll see what I'm talking about the clarity of these responses.
Okay. And then I had a couple questions after that.
Sure.
You just struck a couple nerves for me to
Sure.
ask away.
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
Pretty wild.
Yeah, considering, like I said, everything I just described, no mics, no word banks, no AI, no vocal, anything within the system to create words or voices.
What made you decide on the frequency range that you picked?
White noise, broadband white noise is every sound the human ear can hear. Every single one, from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And most people can't even hear that due to hearing losses at certain spectrums. But in order to catch every voice possible, we don't know what frequency their voice is going to come in at. The reason we know that is because we've done spectral monitoring on EVPs through DRV to know that they can range anywhere from 100 to about 3,000 kilohertz. So we use 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, meaning at whatever level their voice comes in at, it catches a couple of those frequencies in the broadband white noise. And then what happens is, because a white noise generator has a spectral frequency of 1, meaning everything is even, when their voice overlaps that white noise, it elevates their voice up. But yet the white noise does not elevate. So then we cut the white noise out, leaving just the voice.
So the filter's removing the white noise from the playback, then basically.
Correct. But like I said, because it's at an even level, we know where it's playing at, and then we cut it out.
The other thing I was going to ask, like, the closest thing I can think of would be Necrophonics has like a white noise, and then you get all these weird different voices. But like my Spirit Box, it's radio, like, and it's forward, backward, sweep, AM, FM. I have better results if I'm like out in the middle of nowhere where I can't really get a radio station, so it's not sweeping as many stations. And then the other thing I was wondering, if you put it in a Faraday cage or a Faraday box or something like that, would you get better results? Because then the radio stations can't really come through, supposedly can't come through.
Correct. Faraday cage will block out radio stations. But now let's look at the way the instrument was designed. The instrument was designed to use radio. Now you're going to put it in a Faraday cage, which breaks the process under which it was made. And then what people do is they end up plugging a external speaker into it. Guess what that wire becomes when they clip the antenna, and then they plug an external wired speaker in. Guess what that wire becomes? An antenna. So, have people captured voices on a Spirit Box under Faraday cage conditions? They have. Does that raise your chances of it being paranormal? Absolutely it does. But the conflict with that whole scenario is, then why was a radio used as the basis for getting voices if you're going to stick it in a Faraday cage?
Right. Something else I've noticed, like I got one of these K2s here. It picks up EVPs. Electromagnetic frequencies, not EVPs. Anyway, and it basically works on, if you get around a router or anything, it'll pick up that electromagnetic radiation. But they've had all the shielding removed in them, so they're more sensitive than like an industrial electromagnetic meter. They're super sensitive because they take all the shielding out of them, but they're also, I can tap it, you can see the different lights going off. I consider them almost like a vibration type tester or seismic. And I've seen people lay these on a table with the speaker going, like you're saying, external speaker hooked to a Spirit Box, and just the vibration from the speaker and the Spirit Box making the K2 go off. It's almost like a SRW meter on an old stereo. It's the equalizer's going off with the.
Yeah, but you don't think a radio gives off electromagnetic frequency? Guess what it does?
Exactly. So that's.
And if you're videotaping it with a cell phone, guess what a cell phone gives off if it's not in airplane mode? EMF. Not to mention the lights. You could be placing it down next to an electrical circuit.
There's my phone.
Again, they're used a lot in television because responses are pretty much guaranteed, but those responses do not classify it as being paranormal.
I'll use K2s, but I try to set them out in the cemetery away from everything. Now I have that. We were in an abandoned trailer park one time, and as far as we know, all the trailers have been hauled out, just empty pads. There was no power left, no phone lines, anything that we knew of. And there was one spot in a road, and about 4 foot off the ground, and this thing would go off. It would go all the way to red. And we'd take a couple steps back, and it would go away. We'd walk forward, it would go away, right or left, just like one spot. And we'd raise it up high, and it would quit. We'd lay it down on the ground, and it would quit. And it was just like 4 foot off the ground. Never could figure that one out. They've hauled in a bunch of dirt now. I told them, I said, think of all the crazy stuff that's happened in the trailer park. This trailer park's been here 50 years. I'm like, I can't imagine all of what could happen there. It could be possibly paranormal. But still be moving around there. So we checked it out, and that's what we found. And then, they hauled in a bunch of dirt. They're going to build houses there now. Something which, to me, I don't know if that's always a good idea. I don't know about a trailer park, but like a cemetery or somewhere, or a burial ground. You go building a home or building something over the top of that. If there's still any kind of bodies there or anything, sometimes I think that stirs up some things.
Could be. Could be.
I've got a couple more of your videos here. Just play a couple, and if we want to talk to them, then the ones you sent me, and then I've got a couple other ones I picked out.
How do you hear me speak?
So that's an amazing answer, because how many times have you been doing an EVP session and the answer shows up on the recorder before you even finish asking the question? You ever had that happen?
Not very often. If it does, you can't usually understand what it is.
Well, I mean, I've had it happen many times. That question answers it. That also answers the survival theory of consciousness, which scientists are now looking at today. They're not hearing me speak. And how would they? If I'm creating vocal vibrations into the atmosphere, which is good for maybe 100 or 200 feet, and they're not human anymore, and they don't have human ears. Human ears are designed for the follicles to vibrate, send that vibrations to a liquid center. That liquid center pulsates and also vibrates, sending it to the brain, which the brain interprets as speech. If a spirit is energy, frequency, and vibration, they're not going to be able or have ears to hear that. So they have to be getting that messaging from other means. And that answer, energy of the mind, that's the thing, explains it. That's consciousness.
That's one of the things I bring up quite a bit. I'm like, if you're passed away and you're just a spirit form, you don't have ears, you don't have tympanic membranes or anything, you don't have eyes. How are they seeing us? How are they hearing us if they're just a spirit? And I'm like, okay, you're running around a spirit form. How are you? And then like, how do you go through a wall? That's a whole other thing. I get, supposedly if they're just energy, they can go wherever they want, I guess. But that's why I do a lot of this. I'm still trying to understand everything, but I'm like, they don't have ears. How are they hearing? How can they speak to a radio? How are they manipulating the circuitry in this phone or whatever it is to try to speak to us?
Well, that's easy to answer. If they're energy, frequency, and vibration, people always say to me, well, how are they speaking? They don't have vocal cords. You don't need vocal cords to produce speech. Jimi Hendrix used to play what sounded like speech with his guitar.
Oh, yeah.
Vibrating strings to create vibration and frequency. And does your radio have vocal cords? No, it doesn't. It's using energy, frequency, and vibration, but yet you're hearing full speech, full vocals.
With a magnet and a paper cone, and it's
vibration to, frequency and vibration to make it move.
I got another one here. It's very similar to the last one.
Can you say Tony? Did you just say Rathman? Yep. So you know who I am. Can I know who you are? Yes, sir. Thank you. Who am I speaking to?
Again, a question asked, an answer given with timing and relevance to the question asked, and intelligence. I said, can you say Tony? They gave my real name, Anthony Rathman. I asked, you know who I am. Can you tell me who you are? First and last name, two different people. Again, no way to pick up any type of wave. Staticom is a closed circuit system, has no input from any outside signal, yet they gave me first and last names of two people that responded.
Where were you at when you were doing that experiment?
My house.
You're just sitting there at home and stuff's coming through. Then a lot of people don't think there's anything going on in their house, but maybe
They don't have to be.
Through.
If spirits or consciousness, whatever you want to call it, isn't bound by time and space, then they don't have to be in front of you to vocally respond, which is why we will never consider a place haunted by vocal responses, because they don't have to be in front of you. They can transmit that energy to the machine from anywhere. So I don't have to be at a haunted location to get answers. If I am, will those answers reflect the location I'm at? Absolutely. When we were in Tombstone, Arizona, and we were asking questions, they were talking about the bird cage, the liquor that was supplied there, the price of it, the prostitution, everything under the sun. So we knew that spirits that were responding through it were localized to the Tombstone area. But I can reach those same ones here in my area of Arizona without being in front of them. And then people always ask, well, do they ever leave residual energy? Do you ever notice any sort of residual energy after communicating with them? No, we don't, because I wouldn't leave any residual energy texting my friend across town because I wasn't in his house. If I was actually there sitting in a chair for an hour, somebody could detect the heat on the chair. But if I'm not actually there, there is no residual energy to pick up.
Makes sense. Pretty fascinating. I guess so people don't need to freak out if they're picking up some kind of spirit communication. It doesn't mean they're in their house trying to scare them or anything.
Correct. They could be, but it doesn't guarantee that they
are. This next one looks like your home setup. Let's see what we got.
Spirit, Cherie isn't getting sick, is she? Is Cherie getting sick, Spirit? Yes. What should she take? Who created Staticon? So this is when we first got 3.0 to function. And what you're hearing, this was the first night. My wife's literally just holding her cell phone up recording because it just started talking. But she told me before that she wasn't feeling well and that she was in pain. So, of course, I asked the question, is she getting sick? Yeah, it's possible. They said yes. I said, what should she take? And then you heard the word Percodan. I did not know what Percodan was. I had to look it up. Percodan is a prescription strength pain reliever. So the information they gave was 100% accurate. Would that have taken her pain away? You bet it would, because it's a combination of oxycodone and aspirin. But I didn't even know what it was. I had to look it up. So that any of the information that has come through this that we've been able to research it, 95% of it is 100% accurate.
This next one, it may be a little continuation of that last one. I'm not sure. We'll have to look here and see what you think of this one.
Speaker. Who are you trying to find? You're nervous. What?
Right there.
Yeah. Are you trying to send us a message?
Roger. Roger meaning yes or Roger meaning Roger?
Are you talking about Roger Martin?
Yes, Martin. So that was the very first one. I hadn't even finished the programming on it, and voices started to come out. This is the first voices that it ever spit out. My wife heard the first speaker, and then she started responding, and they kept responding back. And that was the big change from 2.0 to 3.0, is that we dialed in the clarity of the voice, and it just continues until we stop talking or turn it off. They will answer questions. It's mind blowing.
It's pretty amazing. Okay, this was one. This looks like you were just kind of had it set up in your living room, and
This was night 2 after we got it running, and I said, let's just ask a bunch of. And what you'll notice in this is that in 2.0, we were doing a lot of research questions. Where are you at? How do you define where you're at? What's your life like? How do you do this? Can you do that? This is so new. We were literally just asking just basic stuff so that we knew whether they responded or not, and whether, we were asking them to say certain words. So what you'll notice is there's not a lot of research in this questioning. It's basic questions, but you'll see how that two-way communication functions.
this one's labeled 4th round of testing. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, there's 2 of them. There's one labeled conversation, I think, and then there's another one, which is the last one, 4th round of testing.
Okay, let's see.
Responses, I think it might be labeled.
Yeah, I see it here. There's 4th round of testing. Then I've got a few other ones that I put on here that I pulled off of TikTok.
No, but time what? Well, I can hear you when you whisper. You know that, right? Spirits, if you're not familiar with this device is called Staticom. If you heard me say Staticom. That's better.
Now, can you say staticom for me, please?
All right, Spirits. If you don't want to say Staticom, let's play another game. What am I holding in my hand? Glasses. Thank you. Thank you very much. How about pineapple? Can you say pineapple? Oh, perfect. Thank you. How come you can't say Staticom like that?
It's one word.
It's one word. Staticom. Have you not been able to talk to humans before? If you can hear me, Spirits, say elephant.
Do you know Tony?
It's me. If we use this device to help cold cases, will you answer the question? Yeah, sure. You bet. Thank you.
That will help.
That'll help a lot. Yeah, that's the closest thing to Thomas Edison's phone to the dead. It's two-way, back and forth communication.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everything that's coming through is one spirit, or you got multiple spirits, or if you have
Oh
anything
no,
going
those are
on with.
completely different voices, male, female. It's multiple.
We got a comment coming in from somebody that said, "How do you know it's Bigfoot? How would you know if it would be Bigfoot communicating with you on there?"
I think that came in when we were talking about the tree branches.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah, I just now saw it. Oh, there we go. I hit the wrong button. I'm used to having Vinny here doing one thing, and I'm doing something else. So I'm doing
Yeah,
it,
it's
running it off on my.
challenging doing comments and everything else, playing clips by yourself. It always takes more than one.
So, do you think the Staticom could be picking up things other than spirits, like possible extraterrestrial or cryptids or interdimensional? I mean,
I
it's
think
definitely interdimensional, but
I think the possibility is there, but let's think about if it was extraterrestrial. We can take any language, Chinese, Japanese, Australian, German, Czechoslovakian, and translate it from one language to the other. Why can we do that? Because we all have the same environments. We're all interacting with the same things: books, telephones, silverware, bed pillows. So once you learn the term for that object, you can translate it and you can keep going through the sentence in that manner to translate it. But we can't translate dolphin squeals. Why? Because we don't live in the ocean. We don't know what each squeal means or identifies, or the environment in which they live. So could extraterrestrials send signals to the machine and make it in a language that we understand? Possibly. But if they're not in-depthly familiar with our environment or have some technology that translate it, how would that happen? Although if you talk to anybody who has had UFO interaction, they say, well, they were speaking to me, but their mouth never moved. It's just what they were saying just appeared. So if that's true, could they send that messaging through to Staticom? Yeah, I think it's possible. Would I know who it is I'm speaking to? No, I don't know today. I can go off of who they say they are, but can I prove that? Absolutely not. Bottom line is it's audio only. I have no idea if they're telling the truth or not. I can't say that's who it is. But
that
is
was a
it
question.
possible? Yeah.
I had a question early on before we ever come on the air. I was going to ask, do you ever get a response in a foreign language?
Absolutely. In fact, that last clip you just played spoke. My wife speaks Japanese, English, and Tagalog. That Kayla Pan is Tagalog. And it actually answered one of the questions that we asked, and she caught it immediately. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. So yeah, that was in Tagalog. So, and we've gotten lots of different languages. When we do public demonstrations of this, we let the audience come up and ask their own questions to get their own answers. It's sort of like a seance, but you don't have a third person telling you what they're getting and then relaying it to you. You can hear the answer for yourself, and everyone in the room can hear it, which is unique. But he came up and he said, can I ask a question? I said, yeah, go right ahead. He asked it in his Native American language. And so we just waited, and then we saw his eyes go wide and his mouth drop. And I said, did you get your answer? He said, not only did I get my answer, but I got it in my Native American language.
That's pretty cool. We were on an investigation one night, and they had me hooked up to the headphones doing a Estes method, the closest we could get to an Estes method, and I think they were using necrophonic. And me, I'm just any noise I hear, I try to make the noise. I try to mimic it. And a lot of times, I'm just trying to break up the monotony and try to make a couple people laugh so they don't go home so mind funny thing. But I'm making these weird noises. When we get off I'm done with it. Somebody else decides to take over. And one guy was with us. He goes, my family's from native, Indian, and I was born on a reservation. He said 3 or 4 of those things you said were actually they were native responses to the question. And I was like, okay. I just thought I was making some weird noises, putting together a couple syllables. He said, no, that was native. And
Right.
what it meant like friend or whatever it meant. But that was pretty interesting. I've got
Yeah.
a that I made, and I think you'll get a kick out of this. This is something I did for fun, and well, I'm just going to play this. It'll speak for itself. We call this the paranormal paramoo. And if a spirit or any kind of Indian one comes around and ring the cowbell, then we know something's around. And just in case we don't have enough cowbell, we got more cowbell down here.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
I could have used a little more cowbell. I could have used a little more cowbell.
That's great. Classic line from Saturday Night Live. I remember when that first played, just great stuff.
Here, but I made it so that if something really strong comes around and try to hit that cowbell, but it's got some little platforms on it too, so I can set other equipment on it. You could also hang pendulums from it, but
Sure.
I've already had my girlfriend, Cammie, and several people on the team already told me. They said if that cowbell ever goes off, we are running to the car. We are done. I've got another device. I don't know if you can see it here. Uh, I was trying to come up with something that only a spirit could manipulate, and I was like, okay, I've got it sealed inside a bottle, and basically, I've got a spinner. I'll pull it out so you can see it. It's got a spinner inside of there, and there's a copper coil coming down to the top, and I've got a Tektite in there because the Tektite is supposed to bring in universal energy because they're made from a meteor when it hits an impact, and so all the rock and the ground around it kind of turn to glass. So I've got a copper coil wrapped around the Tektite, goes through the cork there, and it's all sealed. And then when you put it inside the bottle, it's sealed. So the only thing that can move this would be an earthquake or a spirit or a tornado or something like that. I
Or
carried this thing around.
magnetism.
Could be, but it's brass, and I've got everything copper and brass, so it should not be able to be affected by a magnet at all. That gives me something else to test now, though. See if there's no steel or anything in that swivel.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not brass coated. But
But again, even if magnetism, if it was spinning and it's from magnetism, that's still an effect that would be worth researching further. So that's cool.
most of the time, it don't move at all. Like I carried this thing around. I'm on my second jug. I had something kind of weird happen. I carried it around for 2 years before it ever moved. And I was in a lady's front yard that was having some kind of weird activity, and it moved real slow, like something was like had a hold of it, just almost like it didn't make sense the way it was moving real slow. And the second time it moved, we were in a lady's house, it was having a lot of activity, and I almost thought she had a candle going or something. I'm like, I don't remember anybody lighting a candle. I looked down, I seen something flickering, and I always put a light next to it so I could see it with the camera and make sure I see any movement. And I see this flicker on the ground, and I get to looking real close, and I'm like, that thing's moving. And that's the only time it ever moved in inside someone's home. And I got home that night. The whole bottom of that bottle was broke out, just like come off of one piece. Well, maybe just handling, but I've only had it move twice in like 2 years' time. And,
Wow, very cool.
and I'm thinking about making a few of them and sending them out to people so they can try them out too. Cause I call it like a spirit jug or a spirit bottle or whatever you want to call it. But I've got another one that's got a big styrofoam ball and I've got bells on it. Like, well, if they can ring those bells inside a sealed jug, and then I've got put cat balls in them too. And then the last time the cat ball inside the jug went off, we were up at they call it the Goat Man Trestle up here at Pope Lick Trestle in Louisville. There's a whole story about that, with the legend of the Goat Man, and
Right.
but a train went over, and the cat ball started going off inside the jug, and then I went over there later and looked at the concrete base of the trestle had a crack in it. So when the train went over, it was the vibration. Because I
Yep.
had cat balls and stuff everywhere, but that one shook, and that one had a crack in it. So I chalked that up as vibration from the train. So if anything, cat balls make a pretty good little vibration detector.
True. True.
I've got a couple more little clips here, stuff I pulled off of TikTok. They're real quick ones. See what you think of these. Some of them I'm not sure if we'll be able to hear them or not, but I'm going to give it a go.
Anybody else hear that? That was a voice.
That's me.
Yeah, and
That's in the Phelps Dodge Hospital. Yep.
that was definitely a disembodied voice. I heard it, clearly. And
Without a doubt, right. Nobody else heard it though. I'm the only one that heard it because I asked them, anybody else hear that? And they're all shaking their head no. Luckily, it showed up on my recorder.
my first EVP I got in a cemetery, and I had two different devices it picked up on. It was like I said hello, and I got a hello, almost like a whisper. It's like hello, and it showed up on two different recorders. And I'm kind of the point now where I've got these recorders that look like a watch.
Right.
And, so I'll strap that on my wrist. I'll just have that on all night because I was holding a recorder in one hand, a camera in the other hand, and then I've got like another camera, and I've got all this equipment going on. I'm trying to carry all this stuff. So then at the end of the night, if you're not careful, you'll forget to leave a recorder somewhere because they're tiny, and if and then you got to go back or get them to mail it to you or whatever. So I've kind of switched over these little wrist recorders, but that was my first. I have yet to get a disembodied voice. And there's one here. I was kind of cool to see this one because this is something that's happened to me about 3 times.
Okay, this room has the eeriest feeling of all of them so far. And the worst smell.
That I didn't hear with my own ears. That I only heard on the recording. But again, timing and relevance to the question that I asked, I said, this room has the worst smell. And then female voice out of nowhere. What smell? Like they didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, I've had the smells happen a couple times. I was in an attic in this old house, and it's like on the historical register. It's like an old, not necessarily a mansion, but it was the guy that built the house was a coffin builder. And if you bought a coffin from him, the front room he would rent it out to you or whatever is part of the package, funeral package, and you could have your funeral there in his front room. And I was in the attic of that home, and it was almost like somebody. It kind of reminded me like a kid with a can of fart spray when it came up next to you and just sprayed it right next to you and then took off running. It was just the most intense, super horrible smell. And the lady next to me smelled it too. And then it was just gone. It was as quick as it came, it was gone. And, I've had a few things like with smells that just don't make sense and very strong smells.
Yeah.
This one, I think this is something apologizing.
You better leave this house. You are not welcome in here.
Yeah, we were cleansing a house for some customers, and that was my wife speaking, and she basically said, "You're not welcome here. You need to leave." And yeah, we actually got an apology saying we're sorry.
So the Staticom, is this something a guy could get parts and try to build their own, or is this something you're eventually going to maybe put out on the market? People could try to get one of these things, or you come out on investigation with us with this thing and test it
Absolutely,
out?
would do that for sure. There is a gentleman by the name of Keith Clark who is giving setup information for how this originally began. It's not easy. It's It's a complicated process, and what you're getting from him is the absolute basic. But if you go on Facebook, look up Keith J. Clark, he's got a posting up that says he'll get you set up with the basics and let you play around with it. That is my best suggestion for now, to be able to, for an interest in it and understand its functionality. But it's not what you just heard, because it's the basic. But that's how it began. It started with that and is now what it is today. But to get involved with it, to be able to test it, to be able to actually hear voices, that's the perfect place to start. If people are looking to hear more clips, find out more information, we have a site called entityvoices.com. There are captures from investigations. There's a whole Staticom section, clips, podcasts we've done, all sorts of other things. We also have a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, just put in Staticom, the page will come up. You can listen to clip after clip after clip from what started out as DRV to Staticom to 2.0 to 3.0. And if you have questions or something, I mean, emails are there, contact information, everything can be found there.
So it's kind of still in the development stages. It's not something you can go out and buy a Staticom and add it to your arsenal of equipment, or.
Yeah, it's not a device, it's a method. And for that reason, it's a Frankenstein's monster of hardware, software, filtration. So it's not like a spirit box that you buy, it shows up, you hit the on switch and you're ready to go. It's a little more savvy than that, and takes a little more understanding and patience. You can't just flip it on. There's filtration that has to be adjusted. You test frequency. It's probably something that most people would give up on in 15 minutes. And if that's who you are, it's probably not for you. But if you're willing to put in the time, then you can get the communication like we're getting. It's incredible when it's working like the clips you just saw.
Like, people don't realize when they get in their car nowadays and they turn the key and it starts. They don't realize back in the day you had to pump the gas, you had to adjust the choke. You might have to get out and crank it. Some of them old tractors, you got to put a shotgun shell in them and start them. And then once you get it going, you got to adjust the fuel rich. You got to adjust all that stuff.
This is a method similar to that description. You don't just turn on and you're going to get the voices that you just heard. It's adjustment. It's understanding frequency. But can you pick up the original development and start to play around with it? Absolutely. Keith J. Clark.
I got a couple things here I'm going to play. I want to kind of plug you guys a little bit, and then I think we'll be about done after that. And then if anybody else has any questions or comments, but I am going to post on our Facebook and our YouTube links that explain about your process, and
awesome.
We can go see your podcast and your content.
Very cool.
Paranormal evidence.
What's the Entity Voices team been up to? Investigating. And this Monday, we're going to show you our evidence.
Holy hell. Because you were talking about chicken skin, I get that every Monday night, just about. I bet you don't.
Some chicken skin, come on. And I got one more here.
Very cool. Thank you for doing that. If anybody is happens to be at any of these locations, if you're in Arizona, April 12th, which is a Saturday, we are running Staticon 3.0 live. It's an event you can come out to. And anybody happens to be in Halifax, Canada, we will be there November 1st at the Halifax Symposium giving lectures on this procedure. We will also, anybody around the Utah area will be in Vernal, Utah, which is basically between Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch. We will be presenting there, speaking upon this, as well as doing some demonstrations for about 4 days, September 3rd through the 6th.
Let's say if it was September, I might be in Halifax.
Oh yeah, no, reverse. November for Halifax, September for Vernal, Utah.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. Very interesting. It's probably been one of the more technical guests that we've had on in a while, and I really appreciate your time coming on. And I'm now I want to go like see one of these things in action.
Yeah, it's amazing, especially when heard in person. But I want to say thank you to you. Thank you for having me on. Let me give some explanation of Staticom. And like I said, any of your guests that want to go check it out, I gave the Staticom and the website, the YouTube channel and website. So go check it out. And but thank you very much.
Appreciate everybody tuning in for this week's episode of Supernatural Sundays, and all have a good week. And thanks again, everybody. So y'all have a good week. Come on.